Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. The market is kind of just doing nothing this morning, to be honest. It's down just a little bit, but it's basically flat. Heading into open today, we have Target stock that is just booming on earnings. The stock is up significantly in pre-market. They beat on earnings, and basically they had really good guidance for this year, and the market loved it. At the same time, we have some other big earnings to watch out for as Tom pulled up. SE is another one of them, C Limited. This one is tanking down, but, Tom, for a second there, it was looking pretty good.
Yeah, it was. Initially, C started really flying to the upside. They ran all the way up to 162 and then tumbled right back down to 130. So this one's definitely volatile and it just can't pick a direction. Looks like those earnings did come in a little bit negative, which is not good. It did beat the expectation, which was nice though, but still though, anything in the negative obviously is not the best, but at least it beat that expectation. We'll have to read into maybe their guidance and see how SE ended up doing. I know Baidu was another one that reported, Mike, and it looks like they're actually doing pretty well today. Maybe this will help out some of the other China plays like Baba and other stocks like that. Looks like Baba is starting to move to the upside, which is nice to see. I know that there's been a lot of tensions lately between China and Taiwan. I know people have been talking about that China might start doing a similar thing to what Russia's doing with Ukraine. So hopefully that doesn't happen, but looks like the China plays are doing decent today with Baidu's earnings.
Yeah, no doubt, Tom. I'm really glad you brought this one up because I think that's really going to help these other China stocks like Baba, maybe JD, PDD, maybe Tencent, stuff like that. But, Baidu's up 9% today, and, even Quebit will help. So that's pretty interesting, and we should definitely keep these China stocks on our radar.
Yeah, definitely. And Baidu just actually broke above that pre-market high right here at market open. So it looks like it's definitely getting some good momentum. Hopefully we see it continue. I know that Baidu has been holding its ground on the daily chart for a long time. And just a couple days ago, Mike, Baidu bounced off of that 136 support again. I know it's touched this level like 1, 2, 3, 4. This was like the 5th touch of this support. I cannot believe it's still holding up, to be honest. But hey, the stock's moving, and hopefully we see a nice breakout pretty soon. I think that given the daily setup, we might start to see a move up towards like 180 over the next couple of weeks.
Alrighty. Yeah, that'd be nice. But looking at some other plays, let's definitely talk about Zoom, Tom. This stock has been so volatile over like the past, I don't even know, maybe like 12 hours, 24 hours or so. So they reported earnings, right? The stock just tanked all the way down to 112 from like 133, and then it recovered all the way back up to 133. And then this morning it opened up, fell down to 126, and now it looks like we're about to go green. So this stock has been all over the place. And Tom, we are just now seeing that theta crush, that IV crush. We can see IV's tanking. This is good in my opinion, and I'm someone who's pretty bullish on Zoom, and I think Zoom is long overdue for a pop-up. But all in all, Zoom's earnings was pretty good. It was just that their guidance was lower than expected. But just like you pointed out in yesterday's video, Tom, it's not like their guidance was like, oh, we're going to lose, however many millions this year. It's like their guidance was simply changed from, all right, instead of us bringing in like $4.7 billion, we're going to bring in like 4.65. That's not the exact number, but it's just an example.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like they're like losing any money or anything like that. So overall, I thought the numbers came in good, and then they still have great growth going on quarter over quarter and year over year. So I still think it's pretty good, and the stock is forming a pretty good bottom down here. I was honestly hoping for a bit of a move, maybe above those highs of yesterday, maybe up above like 135 or something like that. Maybe we'll see it happen here at market open, but I know that there were a few earnings plays like Square, Mike, that started going pretty crazy initially and then started popping up over the next couple of days. Even other stocks like Teladoc, Teladoc fell on earnings, but they really recovered over the next week or so. So maybe we'll see Zoom start to recover like this a little bit.
True that, Tom. We're even seeing some of these companies like Palantir rise up in a pretty good way. Like Palantir is getting really close to that resistance, right around $12.18. And I'll tell you, it's not looking bad.
It's really not. This is actually a pretty good resistance. We touched it a few times over the past few weeks or over the past few days, I should say. And if we break out above like 12.18, I think that could make for a pretty good day trade. So hopefully we see it happen. I know usually if stocks consolidate like this, sometimes we see some nice breakouts. So hopefully we see the continued movement with this one. And another one, Mike, is AMC. AMC is actually breaking up, and it's about to touch $20. It looks like we're having like a pre-earnings run-up with some of these stocks.
Uh-oh. AMC on the run-up.
Uh-oh, everyone's gonna throw their life savings into it, Mike. Oh, no.
Oh, gosh, yeah. So, yeah, that'll be another interesting earnings release, as Tom suggested. But, yeah, I mean, it's been pretty rough for AMC lately, but I don't know. Maybe it has a pop-up. I don't know. In my opinion, this one's 50-50, but we will see. But I will say,
be careful with it for sure.
What were you saying?
I said be careful with it for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But what I am seeing right now is, like, even Apple's looking decent. Like, I would not say it's looking great, but, like, you know, when you have Apple up about 0.5% and it's trending to the upside, like, it's always good to see. It looks like it's attempting to break out above. What would you say that resistance is, Tom? Like maybe like 165 something? Like it's not a major level. It's like right where your cursor is.
Yeah, there was a ton of bounces here over the past couple of days, like right at like 165.50, like really close to that. I have another resistance up here at 166 even, but like I said, 165 to 165.50 has seen a ton of bounces over the past couple days, and it looks like it is breaking out. So nice move out of Apple today, Mike. I know that it's been trying to break this level over the past few days, so I'm glad to see it finally moving to the upside. It kind of reminds me of some of these setups like Palantir this morning. You know, it's like Apple's honestly looking like some of the growth plays with the way it's breaking out.
Yeah. Alrighty. And then going back to one of these downside plays, Lucid, this thing's down 17% today after their earnings report. It looks like we're seeing a bit of a sell-off right now, and it is definitely taking a beating.
Yeah, this one was pretty scary to see last night. I know they came in with those pretty bad numbers. I didn't even get to see the EPS, but you can see the EPS was estimated to come in at negative 0.26. And we came in at negative 0.64. That's over a 100% increase from that estimate there. So that's a pretty bad loss to see. I know their sales came in way under expectation, but Mike, the thing that I was really looking at yesterday with Lucid was their production goals. And the stuff that to me is really worrisome is that they cut their 2022 production target by up to 40%. That is insane, guys. Like if they were expected to produce like 20,000 cars, they're only going to be producing like 12,000 cars now. That is insane to hear. I cannot believe that they cut their production target by 40%. And they did cite the ongoing supply chain issues, but you know, companies like Tesla haven't been hit that bad with these supply chain issues. So it's definitely bad to see them cut that production by 40%. Like I said, their sales came in like 10 million under the expectation as well. So honestly, their numbers all around were pretty terrible, Mike. And it's pretty unfortunate because I know this has been a pretty popular stock too.
Yeah, and then just like Elon was saying, I believe regarding Rivian, Elon was basically saying like, what was the, okay, yeah, he said like the true test will come from, I'm looking at these articles right now. What did Elon say? He said that the true test will be able to achieve high production and break-even cash flow. And, you know, these companies like Lucid, Rivian, and all these other EV companies can have these giant goals, and that's awesome. But just like Elon said, like, you know, the true test is, you know, really getting to like full-scale high production. And Lucid is really struggling with that right now. Hopefully they fix that problem for the future, but, you know, it's been rough.
Yeah, and it's trending in the wrong direction. Like their last earnings report was a lot better than this one. Their stock ended up flying to the upside, at least for a couple of days there. And, you know, they reported some decent numbers, but it's just getting worse now. So definitely we'll have to eye up the next report. I know that's going to be probably even more interesting than this one, but it's definitely not good to see it down. The good news is with Lucid, Mike, is that even though we are down, you know, 15%, almost 20% at the lows, we're still not below like the lows of last week. Like just on February 24th, we were extending all the way down to like $21. So at least we're not back down to there, but it's never good to see bad production numbers, and especially for a growth company getting started. Like whenever you have bad fundamentals come out, it's not a good sign, especially when it's as bad as Lucid's was. It's not like they just, barely missed their expectation or anything. I mean, their sales missed by like 30%. It was kind of a big miss there.
Yeah. And then I bet everyone watching right now can predict what I'm about to say related to Lucid's options chain. So Lucid stock is down 16%. The puts that expire this week, a lot of them are in the red, but like even like the at the money and out of the money puts are only up, like you could say 30 to 40%, which is nothing for a 16 to 17% drop in the stock in one day. So this is just, another reason, another example why Tom and I don't like to, trade speculative earnings or speculative options when a stock reports earnings, because you could have a freaking 16 or 17% drop and you're only going to make 30%. I mean, the puts just got demolished, and a lot of the calls got demolished too, and some of them were up a little bit, but it's just not worth the risk.
Yeah, you're right. It's not, and that's terrible to see that those puts still aren't making money, and the stock's down 17%. And as we've been showing, Mike, over the past few days, there's been a lot of earnings reports that have probably, they've probably hurt some retail traders getting into these earnings reports, to say the least. It's unfortunate, but as we know, everybody likes to play earnings. It's a big event, and sometimes, every like 1 out of 10 times you can make a killing on it. So it's definitely not the smartest to play, in my opinion, but I know people love playing them, and it looks like for example, like Lucid, Mike, it seems like it would have been a really good play for the puts, but like you mentioned, that IV crush really hurts you, because only making like 5 to 10% on some of those in the monies is terrible.
Yeah. Alrighty. So we have George saying RKT announced a special dividend. Tom, we have not looked at RKT in quite some time, but yeah, that's awesome to hear. Trying to see. So it looks like the special dividend is like $1.01, but I could be wrong. I could definitely be wrong on that, but that's what it looks like from the Thinkorswim chart. So
yeah, that's very interesting, Mike. I mean, if you said it's $1.01.
It looks like it.
That's pretty good. Like for example, just a few days ago, we were hovering around $10 a share. So I mean, hey, I'll take a 10% dividend for a $10 stock.
Yeah.
I know we're at $13 now, but like we say, Mike, like sometimes 5 to 10% on some of these big companies is huge. And like we talked about with Zoom's share buyback, it only represented like, what was it, Mike? Like 3% of the company, or like 5%. But in the end, though, it's a big amount of money, being $1 billion, and RKT's special dividend of $1 is pretty big, actually.
Yeah, it is. Just the one criticism I have of this, and this might be a little bit petty, but whatever. Doing dividends is tax inefficient. So like, let's say RKT's like, all right, we're gonna pay out, I don't know, let's say $500 million through the form of dividends to our shareholders. Instead of taking that $500 million and paying it out as dividends, if they would have just took that money and then just bought back their own shares, they would have basically had the same effect in terms of just like, I guess you can say giving value back to their shareholders. The only difference is that it makes it more tax efficient for the actual shareholders, because, the stock price will appreciate, where the shareholders actually have to realize the dividend is taxable income. So, that's pretty petty, but whatever. But either way, it's good to see RKT paying out that pretty nice dividend. And if I would have known about this earlier, I just completely forgot about it. I would have probably sold a put on this one. So basically, the what do you call it? The expiration would expire like the day or two before the day you have to own shares in order to get the dividend. That way I would have got paid for the cash secured put, and if I got a sign on the cash secured put, I would also get the dividend, and then I turn around and sell a covered call. So it'd be like a triple-edged sword. But yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty good strategy, Mike. I mean, that was That sounds pretty good, actually. I wish that we would have paid more attention to RKT before this came out, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely sounds like a good strat. And I'll tell you what, like the special dividend is pretty good in my opinion. The thing that I like about it, Mike, and obviously it sucks because you have to realize those taxes, like you said, but in the end, the good news is that now they get to kind of boost the headlines. You know, they're going to be in the headlines for paying a special dividend, which is good. Hopefully this drove in some more longer term investors, which is the main hope. But I will say, I know that RKT has been honestly over the past few years just hovering around these supports, and it's still it's still pretty far away, Mike, from that $15 to $17 level that we were touching for almost 2 years straight. So we still have a little while to recover up for this one.
Yep. Alrighty. So we have I'm Fierce saying good morning. I took a chance on RSX. I did a cash secured put on them at the $8 strike price. The implied volatility is so high. This week's expiration will be a good long-term hold if it hits. What do you think of long-term recovery here? Seems low long-term. So, this is the Russia ETF. Obviously, it just got absolutely destroyed over the past couple weeks. I know that a lot of different countries are sanctioning Russia, which I heard is hurting Russia, but I've also heard other things that Russia has been making themselves what they would like to call sanction proof over like the past decade. So some are saying that the sanctions aren't going to hurt Russia as much as everyone thinks. But all in all, in terms of the RSX, it's at a very low level. There are so many variables to, accurately assess what is going on with this whole situation. Like literally the updates we're getting on Russia are brand new by the minute. So just looking at this from like a technical perspective, I think your thinking is 100% right. I'm Fierce in the terms of selling options when implied volatility is this high. You are selling options when they are so overpriced, and I think that's a very smart idea by you. The only criticism I have, and what I would change if I were you, is that, you said you have the 8 strike, which is awesome. It's far out of the money, and that's awesome. And it's this week's expiration, so I would assume you might have got paid, I don't know, maybe $40 for that 8 strike put, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. But the thing is, these short-term expirations, they don't allow you to fully capitalize on, I guess you can say, the high implied volatility, because short-term options are less sensitive to implied volatility. So what you can do, if you want to, is you can roll the 8 strike put. So you can buy this back, and at the same time, you can go out to like the April 14th expiration if you want, and then you can sell that 8 strike put, and you'll get paid around $150. Or you could even go out to like the March 18th 8 strike put, and you'll get paid around $115, which is actually probably the best way to go. But the main point is that if you go a little bit more further out in time, you can get a really nice increase in your premium collected. But overall, I think your thinking is great.
Yeah, I think it's a good strategy. It's just right now, it's hard to do that, in my opinion, on a stock like RSX. I know that, of course, everyone's going to have a different opinion with this, because I guess it just depends on how you feel, about Russia. But let's just say that Russia continues with their advancement with Ukraine, and, it just keeps getting worse. Like, how low is RSX going to go? That's my main question. Like, we already fell from 25 down to 10. Like, I'm just like, man, like if we have a couple more bad red days, we might be down to around like $6 or something. And, I'm not trying to scare them out of their position or anything, but that's definitely something to keep in mind. But I will say you're on the right track, and it sounds like a pretty good play in my opinion. It's just, I am a little bit worried about, the obviously Russia just continuing their advancement and the stock just continuing to get destroyed. But hopefully we do see it start to recover, and I'm with you. I'd say for the longer term, it will recover. It's just over the next couple of months, I'm a little bit worried on how low it can possibly get to. But honestly, I'm praying that this is near the bottom.
Yeah. So, of course, anything can happen with this specific ETF, but I feel like the overall way that I'm Fierce is setting up his trade is a very smart, I guess you can say, process to have. By shorting options when implied volatility is this high, I think is a very, very smart move. And it's kind of similar to like a pre-earnings setup. So in the same way that we looked at Lucid like maybe 10 minutes ago, and how even though the stock was down 17%, the puts, or some of the puts, were only up like 30%. You just have a giant edge when you're selling options when IV's that high. And then just by going out like a couple weeks in time, or even a couple months, you can get like a very much you can get a larger premium, and it's just that much better. But awesome stuff. I'm fierce. And then what else do we have? We have Jerry asking about sanction proof. So how I said Russia has been trying to make themselves sanction proof. So I read a couple articles. I'm trying to pull one of them up right now. I've heard reports of them like hoarding currency, really, really loading up on gold and other, I guess you can say, assets like that in order to protect themselves from, sanctions. I heard that they really started to, I guess you could say, amp up their efforts to, I guess you can say, be affected by sanctions less back in 2014 when they annexed Crimea. But those are just reports I heard, and I know that they have been buying up a lot of gold, and as we can see, gold has been on the rise. So, I'm pretty sure Putin and his advisors, had an idea that when they invade Ukraine, that there was a chance that the United States and other nations put sanctions on them, and I'm sure they prepared for that. Either way, the sanctions will hurt them, but the main point is that they've learned from, the past, decades ago, but even, in I guess you can say the recent history with Crimea, I think they've learned their lesson to become, a little bit less reliant on the rest of the world, especially if they're planning an invasion of countries by them.
Yeah, definitely. And I have a pretty good article here pulled up that says, over the past several years, Mr. Putin has restructured the country's economy for the specific purpose of withstanding these type of I guess we could call them sanctions, or on here it just says financial pressure. But overall, it's just the main thing is the sanctions. But we can see that it says in the article that Russia drastically reduced the use of its dollar, which is pretty big. So obviously we don't have as much leverage over them. I know that if you look at a chart of Russia's debt owed to the United States, they paid back a ton of it over the past 10 years, and they don't owe near as much as they used to us. So that's big for them. Obviously, they've been trimming their budgets and stuff like that. The stuff that does worry me though, Mike, is I did see reports that Intel and AMD and also Taiwan Semiconductors are not going to be sending any more chips to Russia, at least in the shorter term. So that could be pretty big for them. I don't know who Russia uses for as a semiconductor maker or a chip maker, but in the end, if Intel and AMD are going to halt their chip sales, and if Taiwan Semiconductors does too, it's going to be pretty tough for them to get some of those bigger chips that some of these companies kind of have monopolies over. If you're not using one of these three companies for your CPUs, you're taking a bit of a hit there. So it's definitely interesting to see all these companies starting to join in on the sanctions also. It's not just Intel and AMD. I've been seeing other stuff with other companies also halting production and just halting shipments to Russia as well with everything going on.
Very interesting. How are Intel and AMD doing?
Actually, I'm not too sure today. Let's check it out. It looks like AMD is in the red slightly, which is not good to see. I'm sure NVIDIA looks just like this. Maybe Intel will be green. It looks like it was green right at market open, but it ended up pulling right back down. Honestly, they're all just kind of flat and not doing too much today, so nothing too much there. I will say though, Taiwan Semiconductors is doing pretty well. They're up almost 3%. Yeah.
Interesting. Let's see. All right, so I'm just doing a quick scan to see what we have moving. It looks like BABA is definitely on that high ticker. It is currently up around 4.5%, and I'll tell you, Tom, buyers are definitely coming back in, at least today.
Yeah, they really are. This is looking like a pretty good uptrend here, Mike, and we're heading right back up towards that 110 resistance again. we've had so many bounces off of $110 the past couple of weeks. I really hope that we can just fly past this and just act like it's not even a good resistance level. Honestly, I've just been waiting for a nice breakout of this level for a long time. We can see on the 1-year daily chart, BABA's bounced off of this level multiple times, so hopefully we see a nice recovery out of BABA. I know Baidu is still looking pretty good. They had those earnings earlier in the morning, and they are pulling back a little bit, but they're still up 8%, which is nice.
True. Alrighty. And then, Tom, let's check out the SPY really quickly. We have some people in Discord mentioning how it's not looking too good.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it is doing the best, but I will say it's not doing the worst either. It was definitely looking bad this morning in pre-market. You know, we sold off early in the morning, which was not good. We came back up, though, around open. Looks like it is just starting to slide back over, in my opinion, Mike. Something that I was liking this morning was Apple, Microsoft, and stocks like that were starting to kind of break out. Like Apple was running up to around 166, and looks like it got up to like 166.50. But now they're all starting to pull back to the downside. Like Apple's turning right back over. We're starting to see some red there. Same thing with Microsoft. We're starting to see some red. And overall today, most of my watch list is red. I would say like 65% red and 35% green. So there's definitely a bit of a bias to the downside today. And we're also seeing some big stocks like Tesla, Starbucks, Caterpillar, all these like safer, slower movers are also in the red. I'm not saying that Tesla is a safe, slow mover, but we have McDonald's, Starbucks, Caterpillar. The value plays are kind of falling down.
I gotcha. And to be honest, like related to the market overalls, like the I guess you could just say the SPY, right? Related to the SPY's movement today, and even Apple and some of these other big companies, I'm not too surprised at this pullback because, if we look at the SPY over the past, the past 3 or 4 trading days, this thing went from 410 up to highs of 440. We're talking about the SPY, Tom. Like, that is a giant swing. And even if we looked at, like, Apple, for example, if we go to Apple, this one had a swing from, like, 152 all the way up to 166. So, like, it did have a really, really nice recovery over the past couple days.
Yeah, and these are some slower movers. Like we've seen some stocks over the past couple days move up, like in like DraftKings case, almost like 30% from the lows. And actually, speaking of DraftKings, it looks like it's on the run, Mike. It's breaking out and it's starting to run. I wasn't expecting to see this, but hey, it's looking pretty good. I'm not trying to take away from what we were looking at with Apple and everything, but I definitely feel what you mean. We've been seeing some nice recoveries to the upside, and it looks like you're right. I mean, I would not be surprised to see a bit of a slowdown given how drastic everything's been. And the thing is, Mike, is I know we were laughing about this last week a little bit. Like the market here, we're falling down into Russia invading, and then what happens? Russia invades on Thursday, and the market flies right back up. It's like what's going on here?
Yeah.
It's like buy the rumor, sell the news type of event, but definitely a weird scenario. You would think that once they started invading, it would make the market worse, but in the end, we've been seeing some nice green days ever since they invaded. So I'm not saying the invasion's good, but it's definitely better than the crazy movement heading up into the invasion.
Don't you just love the stock market sometimes, Tom?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It always has to do the opposite of what everybody thinks.
Yep. All right, so we have Johnny saying, is it time to buy some puts on tech stocks? Tech is up over the last few days. I like the idea of having some short exposure to tech stocks, but I'm not, how do I say this? Like, I don't think puts are the best way to go because options are still relatively expensive. Like, I know Tom's looking at AMD, so whether you're looking at AMD or Microsoft or Apple or QQQ or whatever, these options are still pretty expensive. Like, I'm going to use QQQ as an example because it's just like I guess you can say an average of all these tech plays. But, relatively speaking, options are almost twice as expensive right now as they were back in like November of 2021. So it's like, I like the idea of the direction you're looking at, especially like for the short term, but I just feel like puts are not the way to go because like if we looked at QQQ, let's say you went I don't know, like you have to go at least 2 weeks out. So let's say you went to the March 18th expiration, and let's say you went at the money, right? Or maybe slightly out of the money. Let's say you went slightly out of the money, and you bought the 345 puts for QQQ March 18th. That'll cost you around $1,000. So that means your break-even price is around like 335, just a little bit higher than 335, and it's like. Yeah, like it definitely can happen, but it's like, is it really worth the risk to throw out $1,000 just for your break even to be at 335? It's like, if you have the opportunity, maybe look at just shorting the ETF itself, and then maybe even doing like a call credit spread, something like that. It's just like, by buying puts, I feel like it just is not the smart thing to do right now. I think you're much better off shorting shares if you wanted. Like a bearish stance on tech.
Yeah, I think that would be a better way to go as well. And yeah, you're right. I mean, it's going to be tough, I think, over the next few days to short it. I mean, obviously the market's been coming back in a pretty big way as well. I do feel like the tech could pull back a little bit, like AMD, for example. But in my opinion, it also depends like what you pick right now, because I feel like stocks like AMD and maybe like Nvidia have a better chance to fall over. While I feel like stocks like Facebook, for example, I know they've had similar movement over the past few days, but I feel like just given how far Facebook is, for example, from its highs, I think it has a better chance to recover over the next few days than stocks like AMD do. But I definitely see what you mean, Mike. It's going to be tough to just straight up buy the puts naked, especially with the way the movement's been lately. But in the end, I feel like that these stocks could go lower, like AMD. I know that, like he said, they've been on a nice uptrend over the past few days, and I feel like they could end up falling down. AMD is getting rejected on like a few resistances, and it's looking pretty similar to a lot of other setups like AMD, like you mentioned, Apple, Microsoft. They're all pretty similar in the way they're moving, so maybe we'll see a rejection. Like Microsoft is right at a key $300 resistance, so be careful with this, because if we break it to the upside, sometimes we see these stocks have some pretty explosive moves up. So definitely be careful. And for some reason, Mike, the market is, like we said, it's kind of crazy. It's been moving to the upside ever since Russia invaded. So maybe the market's just recovering here from lows. So definitely be careful with shorting.
Yep. All right. So Jerry said, I'm in NVIDIA puts at Tom. So yeah, I mean, NVIDIA's down almost like 1% today. I will say it's looking weak relative to some of these other companies. It's just that options pricing, just like we talked about with QQQ. You just got to watch that options pricing. Relatively speaking, options on NVIDIA are almost twice as expensive as they were a couple months ago. But then again, Jerry, you've hit some home runs in the past. So, in the event that NVIDIA tanks to the downside, they can definitely print.
Yeah, as long as you have a good expiration, and as long as it moves fast enough for you, I think you'll be fine. And looking at the way Nvidia's been moving, we've been really recovering up. We had that big recovery day on February 24th where the market just really recovered from lows. That's where Nvidia bounced off support pretty much and came right back to the upside. I will say, Mike, it seems like all tech stocks are in this same setup. Like we had that big rise on the 24th, 2 consolidation days, and then today we're starting to fall over. Apple's in this setup, Microsoft's in this setup, the QQQ is in this setup, SPY's in the setup. It seems like a lot of things are moving in sympathy with each other, and to me, it looks like that they all like they might turn back over a little bit. Obviously, I'm just looking at the setups here and just kind of eyeing up the price action from today. If we would have had a great breakout this morning up above 440, I think the market would be looking a lot better right now, but we just keep getting rejected at these resistances. So I feel like it could be a pretty good play, Jerry, and hopefully it works out for you. I know you, like Mike said, you've hit some pretty good plays, especially lately. So hopefully we see Nvidia just, fall off the table for you today. And I don't think we're going to fall down to, 230 or anything, but I could see a nice test of like 235 or maybe even like 237.
Awesome. All right, so Tom, Jerry said he's definitely paying a premium, and he said he'll show you his strike. You're gonna hate it. Now I'm nervous.
Oh man.
Yeah. So
I bet. Let's see. It's Jerry. So I'm gonna guess he's got like the probably like the 220 strike or like the 210
220. 220. That's far, Tom. I hope.
Yeah,
It's
I
not.
know. I know it's far, but hey, let's be honest. I mean, 2 or 3 trading days ago, we were right there. So
Yeah.
maybe it's not the most.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess this week's expiration, and I'm gonna say like 230.
Yeah, 230s are coming in like right around $270. So yeah, that sounds like a pretty decent one. I mean, I didn't realize that 220 was only $100, Mike. I guess it is further away than I thought.
Yeah. Jerry goes, oh God, 220. All right, yeah. So whenever Jerry posts that strike, we'll take a look at it. But yeah, in the meantime, I mean, Nvidia, it's not doing. It's just, I mean, it's downtrending, which is good for Jerry. So we'll see, though. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, personally, I just don't like the way it's moving this morning. I always like to say that stocks look like they're starting to slide off, and I feel like that Nvidia looks like it's starting to slide off. I don't think it's necessarily done going up. I just feel like it's going to have maybe like a nice pullback today because we've been rising. I think that would be a good way to play it. But, you know, Mike, some of these other plays that are doing pretty good today are the oil stocks. I will say, like, I'm really glad I cut that Exxon play the other day because, man, Exxon flew up. We have Chevron continuing to break out. Like, if we look at Chevron on a 1-year daily chart, Mike, I mean, this is getting pretty explosive. Like, we haven't been seeing an uptrend like this in a while.
Yep. All right, Tom. So the verdict is in. All right, Jerry has the 235 strikes for this week. So not as bad as you thought, but still.
Yeah, there we go. Not bad at all. I'll take that.
Well, I wouldn't say it's not bad at all. You know, it is a weekly expiration. You know, the break even is at like 231. But yeah, so like we said, I mean, your break even's like around 231. So if it really, really falls off the board, the thing can really print. But you definitely need a sizable move down just to break even.
Yeah, you definitely do. And keep in mind that is by expiration. I'm sure he's going to sell it within some time today, hopefully, I guess, given everything going. We do still have a few days until Friday, but you know, I guess if we fall like today, for example, if we fall below 240 and we come down to like 237 or 235, I feel like he'll make a pretty good amount there.
Yep.
As long as it's today.
I'm just happy Jerry did not see the 200 strike this week because that's what Hunter was predicting. That would have been bad.
Yeah, 220 was bad, man. 200, it only cost $15. Like, man, that's almost like how much it costs to buy a gallon of gas now.
Oh gosh. All right, so with some of these next questions, we have Head saying MOS went from 42 to 54 since I first talked about it. Yeah, it's popping up, Head. It's it's definitely moving to the upside. I know those potash stocks were on the move yesterday, so it's definitely popping up. So if you're in it,
oh yeah,
that's
and Mike,
awesome.
Explain what potash means because I know a lot of people were really confused by that yesterday.
Let me just pull up the direct definition from the internet because I know I'll butcher it. So give me 1 second. All right, so according to Google, potash, an alkaline potassium compound, especially potassium carbonate or hydroxide. From my understanding, it has to do a lot with like fertilizers and stuff like that. But the main thing is that Russia and just the, I guess you can say, geography where all of this bad stuff is happening between Russia and Ukraine is a pretty big supplier of the elements, or I guess you could say, you know, what's needed for potash and like other fertilizers and stuff like that. And obviously, since there's going to be less supply, if demand remains constant, then the prices would rise. So MOS has been on the rise as well as IPI.
Yeah, now honestly, who was the one who called out MOS again?
That was Head.
Head, yeah. Hey, Head, I will say I've been eyeing this one up ever since you pointed it out. I know that we've been seeing it on the earnings reports and stuff like that as well, and I know it's been something that we've definitely been interested in. So thanks for pointing it out to us in the first place because it was a pretty good find, and you're definitely right. Ever since you brought it up, it straight up exploded.
Yep. Alrighty, so good stuff, Head, and then just looking at some other, I guess you can say, plays right now. Good old DraftKings is on the high ticker, Tom. Don't you just miss the days when we'd wake up and DraftKings would be down 8%?
Oh man, Mike, no, I don't. That was definitely a low time of last year. Like last year it was pretty rough for growth stocks, to say the least. It was ever since the beginning of the year to the end, they were almost straight down. It was rough, but hey, I mean, this recovery is nice. We're almost back to $25 at this point, and I know that over the past few days, like we're up like almost 30% from these lows. Let's see, we're up like 50%, Mike, from the low around 1650. So, well, hang on, that can't be right. Hang on, let's see. Yeah, actually, it is right. Yeah, we're up like 50%. So that's awesome.
In my opinion, DraftKings never should have got this low, but it is what it is, and I'm happy that it's recovering back up. So up 4%, let's go. I think it's a mixture of, one, shorts covering, but two, people realizing that this stock should not be this low, and that's just my personal opinion, and that's coming from someone who's very biased towards DraftKings to the upside, but still, like literally, like the other week, DraftKings tanks down on earnings. And then just for, 3 or 4 trading days later to make it all back, it's like did the market not like the earnings report one day and then they liked it the next week? Like, yeah, gosh.
Yeah, it's insane to see how the market's been reacting to these earnings. I mean, sometimes we'll see stocks report good earnings and then tank, and we'll see stocks report terrible earnings and then sometimes rise up just because they had some decent guidance or something like that. But definitely good to see DraftKings recovering. I know that earnings report was definitely scary. Like, look at the 1 hour chart. We can see that how drastically DraftKings fell all the way down to $16 there, Mike. Like, that was an insane drop. I forgot the exact percentage. It was like 20 or 30% though. It was definitely not a good one, but we did kind of hover right around those all-time lows. We did stay right around that IPO price still. I know that IPO price was around like 1760 or 1750. So I'm glad to see those levels hold up, and it looks like DraftKings is honestly about to break out again. Like, we're approaching that $25 resistance, and if we start to break that in a major way, I could see us running up to around $30 again, at least over the next few months. And I will say, Mike, DraftKings has had some great news. We had that New York legalization finally go through, and they're able to operate there now, and other states are obviously going to be doing that also. So it's a really nice thing to see them recovering up, and they're getting some good headlines coming out too.
True that. Alrighty, so we have Keisha saying, why is Boeing tanking? Let's see. Boeing is down 3.5%.
I feel like they're just following the airlines today, unfortunately.
Yeah, it does look like it has really been moving with like the airlines lately, and those have been falling. I'm not.
And it has made me a little upset though, Mike, because like we've seen some defense stocks like Lockheed doing very well, and I know that Boeing is in that defense sector also, but I guess the commercial industry is hurting them more than the than the private sector is helping them.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any specific bad news related to Boeing, but, like you said, the airlines are taking a beating, but, check out some of these defense plays like Lockheed Martin. Those things are booming. Like, Lockheed Martin is up another 4.5% today, and, just, what was it, maybe 5 trading days ago, the stock was at like 384. Now it's at 453.
Are we at all-time highs? We are. We're at all-time highs on Lockheed Martin today, Mike. This is a pretty big day for Lockheed. I'll tell you, it's been really recovering up. I really wish I would have held my Lockheed shares that I owned from the beginning of 21, Mike. I let them go around like 370, but man, it kept going up all year long. It's nice to see that it just kept recovering, and obviously this stuff going on over the past few months has just pushed it even higher. But look at the past 3 trading days, Mike. Like, we've had like 3 5% days in a row, and now the stock's making new highs. Like have a week Lockheed, and then also NOC having similar movement too. Like, these stocks are really running. I know that we hit on these in a video just a few days ago, and man, it could have been a pretty good opportunity there.
Absolutely. They're definitely running. So we have Head saying, I wonder if Boeing money is moving into Lockheed Martin. Just a thought. Yeah, it's possible. There's not really a way to measure that, I guess. But yeah, it's definitely possible, and I can see it. I know that like Lockheed Martin is more of like a defense slash like war stock type play. Like when someone is saying, "Hey, I want to invest into like the defense sector," I feel like a lot of people think of Lockheed Martin before Boeing, and even like Raytheon and like General Dynamics, in my opinion, all come before Boeing.
Yeah, they do. They're bigger in the defense sector. Like, of course, Boeing makes, like the F-35 and different stuff like that. But like Lockheed, they make one of the best jets in the world, given the F-22 Raptor here. Like, to all like the war nerds out there, everybody always looks at all these SU Russian aircrafts, like the MiGs and different stuff like that, or like the Su-35s. And whenever we look at like the Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor, it's one of the only jets out there that can truly compete and even beat, in a lot of cases, a lot of these Russian aircraft. So that's big for Lockheed that they have this. Of course, General Dynamics deals a lot with bombs, and same thing with Northrop, and of course tanks, and then targeting systems and stuff like that. And Mike, that's a big thing that people don't even realize happens a lot, is like a lot of these companies like General Dynamics and Northrop focus so much on like the AI capabilities with war, because AI is used so much for these like laser guided missiles, and AI is used to keep aircraft stable in air and different stuff like that. So honestly, like a lot of these companies are dealing a lot with technology as well. So it's big in general. Like it's not even just war stuff as far as AI capabilities also.
Interesting. And then Sam said that Boeing has a bad Netflix show showing the Max plane insider cover-up was so bad. A lot of them should be in jail, but took a fine to avoid prosecution. So I didn't see that, but that's very interesting. And yeah, any sort of bad press can definitely hurt a stock, especially in the short term. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, and poor Boeing, they honestly have not been doing well ever since that COVID crash, Mike. Honestly, Mike, I remember, this might make you a little bit happy. I remember you had an awesome trade with Boeing, Mike, initially when it first fell here. Can you kind of like let us know again, like what exactly happened? I know you grabbed a ton of shares down there, like right at the bottom, and then, you had an awesome recovery there within the next 3 days.
Yeah, like when the COVID crash was happening, like I was just seeing all of these stocks get absolutely wiped out. And I was like, oh my God. Like I was like, I have to buy something. And Boeing was one of the few stocks that I did buy. And I timed it all, not, I don't want to say perfectly, but I had a pretty nice entry with it. I initially got some under $100. Like it might have been like 90 something, and then that was like a fraction of my total position, and then the stock started going up, so I bought a little more over 100, I believe. But then here's the problem though, Tom. So I got in, I guess you could say around $100, and then a couple days later the stock went all the way up to 186, but I sold a covered call way too soon. So it's like I got called out on that covered call, which definitely limited some of the gains, but at the same time, IV was so high at the time where the premium I collected on the covered call was pretty good anyways. So either way, I mean, it was a pretty nice trade. It's just, I just regret selling that covered call too soon.
Yeah, that was like spot on accuracy though. Like that was a really good buy there, like right around $100. And since your average price was like right around there, really good trade. So overall, just amazing. But just wanted to bring that up because I know that Boeing's been going down lately, and it's been a little bit of like a sad stock. It keeps going down. But hey, at least we have some good, like a good pass with Boeing. So that's good. And I will say, as far as Boeing's set up like right now, Mike, I would say for shares, it's honestly not bad. Of course, it's going down in the short term with the airlines, but there's a big support on Boeing around 185. We've had a ton of bounces there. And as long as you can like average in on it, I feel like it's still a decent pickup for the long term. While they are going down with the commercial airline industry, I do believe that they will start recovering back. They did have a bad earnings report last time and stuff, but I feel like that over the next like year or so, as the airline industry gets better also, I feel like they'll do decent.
There we go. Alrighty, so let's see. I mean, Tom, do you have any plays you're watching? Like, I know we covered a lot of stocks today, but I'm looking at some of my scanners, and it's basically showing the same stuff. So, you see anything?
You know, one thing that I've been looking at all morning that I've been just waiting on to maybe make an intraday play on or something like that is DWAC. This thing just continues to slowly climb higher and higher. And I will say, like last week, we had that insane move in pre-market with DWAC as it launched and kind of came on the market, and then it tanked right back down. And I know that like right now, a lot of people have downloaded Truth Social, but they're like not letting you into the application. Like everybody's stuck on a waiting list. I'm like 200,000 on the list. But in the end, though, the stock is doing pretty decent this week. You know, it's slowly recovering back to the upside. And I would tell you, if we could break above the pre-market high of today, or the high right around open, if we could break out above like 94.32 or 94.35, I think we could see DWAC possibly have a pretty good intraday move today. It's setting up pretty well. And lately, whenever it's been breaking out, it's been moving up in a decent way. So hopefully we just see it continue to run. I know that this one has been pretty hyped up over the past 6 months, and it looks like on the daily, it's starting to run again. So like I said, definitely eye this one up. I feel like it could be a good intraday move. Just be really careful. You know, that IV is high, so it's going to be tough to play the options, but as long as you're getting in and out very, very quickly, I think it can be done. And I would recommend shares personally, but you know, I know everyone wants to get in and out of those calls really fast.
True that. Alrighty, I just saw some news come through on the popular news tab saying that the White House was looking closely at possible war crimes by Russia in Ukraine. So that's interesting. I actually saw some reports of like, I don't know if it's true or not, but I saw some people saying that Russia was using like cluster bombs and like hitting like schools and hospitals. Like I said, I don't know if it's true, but that's just what I saw online.
Yeah, I've heard of stuff like that as well. It's definitely not good. I know that I've seen some pretty unfortunate videos, Mike, of like for example, I know that like in some of these cities, you know, like if you live there, like how do you get around right now? You know, you're probably scared to go outside. I've seen some people just driving cars down the road and then tanks just swerve out of their lane and run them over. You know, I'm sure you've seen that video. There's been the guy actually ended up living though, who got ran over by the tank, believe it or not. But in the end though, like I've been seeing lots of crazy stuff, whether it's tanks running things over or plowing through walls or soldiers like throwing people around or what have you. You know, I've seen all types of stuff. So definitely there's probably some pretty bad crimes going on. Is it, you know, obviously we have crimes in just about every war though. So keep in mind, I know that there is a certain like war laws and there is the Geneva Convention. Like you mentioned, Mike, those cluster bombs are a pretty big deal. I know that you're not allowed to use like white phosphorus in bombs or grenades as well. So that might be coming into play too. But I know that there's just so much things that are banned that, you know, there's kind of like that gray area with war right now where, and it kind of doesn't make sense to me because like, you know, you're in war. So obviously I don't think that Russia's going to care too much about our, you know, our, I guess, laws on the war. But in the end, I mean, it's definitely not good to see. And it looks like RSX is starting to turn back over, unfortunately. It's down 12% again today.
Yeah, we will see. So we have Raymond saying, is inflation being priced in on Starbucks and McDonald's? I mean, I guess you can argue it's being priced in for everything right now. It's just about how these companies can adapt to inflation, and it's how they can, you know, if they can pass over their increased costs to their customers. So I guess, like I said, I guess you can argue inflation is being priced in for every stock and commodity and just investment overall. It's just like, can Starbucks and McDonald's pass on the cost to their customer and continue to profit? And I would assume so. And yeah, I would definitely assume so. But yeah, so hopefully that helps. Starbucks has been taking a hit, and yeah, even McDonald's has been taking a hit lately too.
Yeah, it has. Personally, McDonald's kind of looks like to me on the daily chart like it might keep going a little bit lower in the short term. I feel like McDonald's was holding up very, very well this year, Mike, compared to a lot of other stocks. And, you know, we can maybe expect a bit of a pullback. That doesn't mean McDonald's is going to crash, but I could see him falling below 240 over the next few days. But I will say, I mean, it's getting pretty tempting to get some longer term positions, whether it's McDonald's or Starbucks, or even some of these other safer plays like Caterpillar. Like I've been seeing a lot of these value plays pulling back pretty big lately. And I've honestly been eyeing up some good long-term positions and selling some puts and stuff like that. So I would definitely recommend eyeing these up, especially for longer-term plays. In the short term, they might go a little bit lower, but I'm really liking the levels, especially on Starbucks, Mike. Like, we're down under $100 at this point. This is pretty good looking.
Yep. Alrighty. So we have Keisha mentioning Tesla. How's that one doing? That one's up a little bit. It's up like 2%, so not bad. You know, it's a decent day for Tesla, and it's actually breaking out.
Yeah, it is. It's breaking out in a pretty good way. It's breaking those highs of yesterday, starting to run up. Let's look at it on like the 1 hour chart, see like how it's moving. There is definitely a lot of overhead resistance, so be careful. But I will say the breakout's definitely nice today, so hopefully it continues up. I know that Tesla has been, you know, all over the place the past few weeks, but it has been recovering ever since the low here, just like the SPY, and it's honestly kind of following some of the growth plays. Like I know DraftKings has been looking very well, kind of like Tesla too.
All right. Alex said Lucid is recovering pretty nicely from its low today. Now it's really going to destroy those options, Tom.
Yeah, it is. Now those puts are going to be really hurt. Man, I'm going to go like look at the chain really quick and see what it looks like. Let's see. So yeah, the only thing that you could have won on today, at least the thing that you'd still be up on if you bought it yesterday right before close, is the 25.50 puts. You'd still be up like 10% on that. If you went further in the money, you'd still be up on those. But still, I mean, to only be up, you know, 5 to 10% on some of these options when the stock falls 10% is insane. Like you could have just shorted the stock and made more money.
Oh, easily. Gosh. Yeah, very true. So, Tom, do you have any last-minute plays before we close out of the stream?
Yeah, I did just want to mention these oil plays one more time. You know, they're continuing to go crazy. Like, Oxy is just continuing to fly up. We're up 7% here, almost up to $47. Obviously, the Russia situation is not getting any better. Exxon is not breaking out like that. It broke out this morning, but it definitely pulled back a little bit. It's crazy to see how oil's been moving, Mike. I know /CL or crude oil is now at $102 per barrel. That is insane. We're breaking out above $100 in a big way, so just keep those on the radar. Also, Mike, I've also been just loving growth today. It's been having a great day. I know that we mentioned DraftKings earlier, but it's still continuing up with the momentum. We did hit that $25 resistance and start to move down, which isn't good in the short term, but we've been having some great intraday moves today, whether it's DraftKings, Palantir, Matterport, Blink even. So there's been a lot of great moves, and honestly, I just hope they continue. Like, for example, Blink's setup is pretty bullish to me. Like, if we break out above 25.44, I could definitely see this one continuing up today, possibly to around 26. I could see Matterport possibly continuing if they start to break out too. So hopefully we see these runs just have a nice continuation today.
There we go. So thank you guys so much for watching today's stream. Before we close out, I want to personally thank everyone. So thank you so much, George, Alex, Vicky, Hunter, I'm Fierce, Mike, Jerry, Keisha, Johnny Leverage, Sean, Head, and Sam, Raymond, and I think that's everyone. So thank you guys so much for joining today. The market is looking pretty good so far. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.